The massive space station Kepler Prime floated in the neutral zone between three major galactic powers. Its silver hull gleamed under the light of twin stars as hundreds of ships from across the galaxy docked at its many ports. Today was the annual Galactic Council military assessment, where each species would display their newest weapons and warships to maintain the delicate balance of power that kept the galaxy from tearing itself apart in war. Admiral Vexstar stepped onto the main presentation platform, his purple skin gleaming under the bright lights of the council chamber. Behind him, a holographic display showed his species' newest creation. The Void Render stretched over 8 kilometers long, its dark hull bristling with plasma cannons and missile bays that could destroy entire fleets. The assembled delegates from dozens of worlds watched in respectful silence as Vexstar described the Dreadnought's capabilities. The Hegemony Empire had ruled most of the galaxy for 300 years, and ships like the Void Render were the reason why. No other species had managed to build anything that could challenge their military supremacy. The few who had tried found their worlds burning under Imperial fire within months of revealing their new weapons. Near the back of the vast chamber, Ambassador Kane sat quietly with his small human delegation. Colonel Torres shifted uncomfortably in his chair as the various alien species presented their fleets. The humans had been attending these summits for 40 years, ever since Earth had achieved faster than light travel and made contact with the galactic community. In all that time, they had never once presented any military hardware. Most of the other species barely acknowledged Earth's existence. Humanity controlled only 12 star systems, had a total population of just 30 billion across all their worlds, and their technology seemed centuries behind the major powers. They were useful as traders and diplomats, but nobody considered them a military threat or ally worth courting. Commander Thrix of the Dominion Fleet stepped forward to present his species' new battle cruisers. The reptilian officer's scales shimmered green and gold as he gestured toward the holographic displays showing sleek warships that could travel faster than any previous design. The Dominion controlled nearly as much territory as the Empire, and their ships were known throughout the galaxy for their speed and maneuverability. After Thrix finished his presentation, Minister Yolan of the Confederation took the platform. Her pale blue skin marked her as one of the ancient species that had helped found the galactic government thousands of years ago. The Confederation preferred defensive technologies, and their new shield generators could protect entire planets from orbital bombardment. While they controlled fewer worlds than the Empire or Dominion, their defensive capabilities made them nearly impossible to conquer. One by one, each major species presented their latest military developments. The Nexus Collective showed off their robotic drone fighters that could operate without pilots. The Solar Federation demonstrated new energy weapons that could punch through any known armor. The Trade Union revealed cargo ships that doubled as mobile fortresses, protecting their merchant fleets from pirates and raiders. Finally, the Council President called on Earth's delegation. Ambassador Kane stood slowly and walked to the presentation platform. The chamber fell silent, though more from polite courtesy than genuine interest. Most of the delegates expected another boring speech about Earth's commitment to peaceful exploration and trade. Kane cleared his throat and began to speak in the simple, direct style that had made him an effective diplomat. He thanked the Council for another year of peace and prosperity. He praised the technological achievements displayed by the other species. He spoke about humanity's continued commitment to the galactic community and their desire to contribute to the common good. Then came the moment everyone expected. The Council President asked Kane to present Earth's military capabilities for the annual assessment. The human ambassador paused for a long moment, looking out at the hundreds of alien faces staring back at him. Some showed mild curiosity, others barely concealed boredom, and a few displayed the kind of amused superiority that came from dealing with a species they considered primitively weak. Kane smiled slightly and gave his response. Earth preferred to keep its defensive assets classified for security reasons. The human delegation would not be presenting any military hardware or capabilities at this time. They trusted that the Council understood their position and would respect their decision to maintain operational security around their defense systems. The reaction was immediate and exactly what Kane had expected. Laughter rippled through the chamber as delegates turned to whisper jokes to their neighbors. Commander Thrix's scales flashed bright red with amusement as he made a loud comment about humanity's pathetic attempts at secrecy. Minister Yolen, usually the most diplomatic of the major power representatives, suggested that Earth might want to consider joining a mutual defense treaty rather than pretending they had anything worth keeping secret. Admiral Vextar didn't even bother to hide his contempt. He stood and addressed Kane directly, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. The Empire had sensor readings from every human world and space station. Their intelligence services had been monitoring Earth's activities for decades. Humanity possessed no weapons more advanced than kinetic missiles and basic laser batteries. Their largest warship was a converted cargo hauler that barely qualified as a frigate by galactic standards. The Admiral continued his mocking assessment of Earth's military capabilities. Human ships were slow, lightly armed, and poorly shielded. Their ground forces used projectile weapons that wouldn't scratch modern armor. Their defensive installations were so primitive that a single Imperial destroyer could level any human city from orbit. The idea that such a backward species had secrets worth protecting was laughably absurd. Kane listened to the verbal assault without changing expression. Colonel Torres clenched his fists under the table but remained seated as instructed. The other human delegates maintained their calm professional demeanor despite the humiliating public dismissal of their entire civilization's military worth. As Admiral Vextar finished his speech and returned to his seat, the Council President called for a brief recess before the final session. The delegates began to file out of the chamber, many still chuckling about the presumptuous humans who thought they had military secrets. Kane and his team remained seated, seemingly unbothered by the mockery they had just endured. That was when the station's emergency alert system activated. Red lights flashed throughout Kepler Prime as the automated defense network detected massive energy signatures approaching from hyperspace. The station's AI announced in its calm, synthetic voice that an unscheduled vessel was dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The delegates rushed back into the chamber. As the main viewing screen activated to show the approaching ship, what they saw defied everything they thought they knew about human technology and capabilities. The vessel emerging from hyperspace was enormous beyond anything they had imagined possible. It stretched over 15 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull a seamless blend of angular armor plating and smooth curves that suggested both devastating firepower and incredible speed. The ship's design was unlike anything in the galactic databases, where most warships were built around obvious weapon systems and engine clusters. This vessel seemed to flow like liquid metal given form. Energy readings showed power levels that dwarfed even the mighty Void Render. Sensor scans revealed weapon batteries that could level continents and defensive systems that made the Confederation's best shields look like paper. Ambassador Kane stood and walked back to the presentation platform as the alien delegates stared in shock at the massive human warship now holding position at the edge of the system. He activated the communication system and spoke in the same calm, measured tone he had used throughout the summit. The used Leviathan, Earth's newest diplomatic vessel, had arrived to conclude the human presentation. Captain Blake sent his regards to the assembled delegates and wanted them to know that Earth's military capabilities were now adequately demonstrated. The human delegation trusted that their defensive assets were properly understood and no longer required classification. The chamber remained silent as the Leviathan's engines flared with impossible brightness and the massive ship vanished back into hyperspace, leaving only questions and the dawning realization that humanity had been hiding secrets that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. 3 weeks had passed since the incident at Kepler Prime, and the Hegemony Empire's capital world buzzed with activity unlike anything seen in decades. The massive government complex that housed high command stretched across an entire continent. Its crystalline spires reaching toward the purple sky as shuttle after shuttle delivered urgent reports from across Imperial space. Supreme Commander Zaltok stood before the vast tactical display that dominated the central war room. His four arms moved constantly as he manipulated holographic data streams, searching for answers that seemed to slip away like smoke. The most powerful military leader in the galaxy had spent his entire career dealing with threats he could understand and enemies he could see. The human supercarrier had shattered that comfortable reality in a single afternoon. Intelligence. Director Krevan approached the Supreme Commander with the latest analysis reports. Her species had evolved from pack hunters, and their enhanced senses made them natural spies and information gatherers. She had personally overseen the Empire's intelligence operations for over 50 years, building networks that reached into every major civilization in known space. Yet somehow, humanity had developed technology that surpassed Imperial capabilities without triggering a single warning from her vast network of agents and sensors. The preliminary investigation had revealed disturbing facts about Earth's true activities. Hidden deep in the bureaucratic records of trade permits and exploration, licenses were hints of projects that didn't match the primitive civilization the Empire had been monitoring. Mining operations in asteroid belts that produced far more refined materials than any human world claimed to import. Energy signatures from supposedly uninhabited systems that suggested major industrial activities. Transport schedules that made no sense unless Earth was moving massive amounts of personnel and equipment to undisclosed locations. Krevan activated the holographic display and began presenting her findings to the assembled military leadership. The first revelation was that Earth had been conducting these hidden operations for at least a century. Careful analysis of old sensor data showed patterns that the Empire's analysts had dismissed as background noise or natural phenomena. What they now realized were carefully disguised signatures from human ships and installations operating under advanced stealth technology. The second discovery was even more troubling. The energy readings from the Leviathan suggested that humanity had solved several fundamental problems in physics that Imperial scientists had been working on for thousands of years. Their power generation systems operated on principles that the Empire's best minds couldn't fully understand. Their faster-than-light drive technology seemed to bypass the normal limitations that required massive ships to travel slowly between stars. Most concerning of all, their weapon systems appeared to be based on entirely new forms of energy manipulation. Supreme Commander Zaltok listened to the briefing with growing concern. The Empire's dominance had always been based on their technological superiority and vast industrial capacity. If humanity had secretly developed advanced technology while pretending to be a minor civilization, it called into question everything the Empire thought they knew about the balance of power in the galaxy. The Supreme Commander made his decision quickly. Operation Silent Hunt would deploy the Empire's most advanced reconnaissance assets to track down the human supercarrier and determine the true extent of Earth's military capabilities. Captain Rex, one of the Empire's most skilled deep-cover operatives, would lead a team into human space using stolen transport vessels and forged identification codes. Captain Rex had spent most of his career infiltrating enemy civilizations and gathering intelligence that shaped Imperial policy. His species could alter their physical appearance to mimic most humanoid races, making him nearly impossible to detect when operating undercover. He had successfully penetrated the highest levels of government in 3 different civilizations, providing the Empire with the information needed to conquer them without firing a shot. The mission briefing took place in a secured facility deep beneath the capital city. Rex studied holographic displays showing everything the Empire knew about human space and Earth's 12 star systems. The official records painted a picture of a small, peaceful civilization focused on trade and exploration. The reality suggested by recent discoveries was far more complex and dangerous. Rex's team would use a captured human cargo vessel to enter Earth's territory and begin systematic surveillance of their military installations. The Empire's intelligence networks had identified several locations that might be connected to the Supercarrier program, including research facilities on Mars, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and mysterious energy signatures detected. In the outer system near Neptune, the journey to human space took 2 weeks using conventional faster-than-light travel. Rex's team maintained perfect cover as cargo haulers delivering trade goods to human colonies. Their ship's sophisticated sensor systems, disguised as standard navigation equipment, began collecting detailed information about human activities the moment they entered Earth's territory. What they discovered exceeded their worst fears. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter showed signs of massive industrial activity that had been completely hidden from Imperial surveillance. Entire asteroids had been hollowed out and converted into manufacturing facilities. Energy readings suggested production capacity that rivaled some of the Empire's major shipyards. Most disturbing of all, the metal composition of the modified asteroids included materials that didn't appear in any Imperial database. Rex ordered his team to investigate the outer system installations near Neptune. Long-range sensors detected multiple large structures in orbit around the ice giant, but visual confirmation proved impossible due to some form of advanced stealth technology. The energy signatures were enormous, suggesting installations that might be capable of building ships the size of the Leviathan. The investigation of Mars revealed another piece of the puzzle. The human colony there was much larger than Imperial records indicated, with underground facilities that extended deep into the planet's crust. Transport traffic between Mars and the hidden asteroid facilities followed regular schedules that suggested a coordinated operation spanning the entire solar system. Rex began to understand the scope of what humanity had accomplished. They hadn't just built a single supercarrier in secret. They had created an entire hidden industrial complex, capable of supporting a major military program. The primitive civilization that the Empire had been monitoring was nothing more than a carefully maintained facade designed to hide decades of preparation and development. As Rex prepared to transmit his findings back to Imperial High Command, his ship's sensors detected an approaching vessel. The human craft appeared on their screens without warning, suggesting stealth technology far beyond anything the Empire possessed. Before Rex could react, his communication systems activated, and a human voice filled the bridge. Agent Foster identified herself as a representative of Earth's intelligence services. She complimented Rex on his thorough investigation and informed him that his team had been under surveillance since the moment they entered human space. The humans had been expecting Imperial spies and had allowed Rex to gather information specifically to send a message back to the Empire. Foster's transmission included detailed scans of Rex's ship and crew, proving that Earth's sensors could penetrate Imperial stealth technology with ease. She offered Rex a choice that would determine whether the Empire learned the full truth about humanity's preparations. He could join Earth's cause and help bring freedom to the oppressed species under Imperial rule, or he could face the consequences of knowing too much about human capabilities. Rex stared at the tactical display showing his ship, surrounded by previously invisible human vessels. The Empire's most advanced spycraft was helpless against technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. For the first time in his career, Captain Rex realized he might have infiltrated an enemy that was far more dangerous than the Empire had ever imagined. The choice Foster offered him would determine not just his own fate, but potentially the future of the galaxy itself. The Hegemony Empire's 7th Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a pack of predators arriving at a watering hole. Admiral Corvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as 67 warships arranged themselves in perfect battle formation. 3 massive dreadnoughts formed the center of the fleet, their weapon systems already charging. For what everyone expected to be a quick demonstration of Imperial power, the Admiral had received his orders directly from Supreme Commander Zaltok himself. The human homeworld would be investigated thoroughly, and if Earth's government refused to cooperate, the planet would be occupied until the Empire located every hidden military facility and supercarrier. The loss of Captain Rex and his team had convinced High Command that humanity posed a genuine threat that required immediate action, Corvin activated the fleet's sensor arrays and began scanning the inner system for signs of the defensive network that intelligence reports suggested should be protecting Earth. The initial results confused him. Long-range scans showed normal civilian traffic around Earth and its moon, but none of the military installations that Rex had reported before his disappearance. The asteroid belt showed signs of mining activity, but no trace of the massive industrial complexes that should be supporting a supercarrier program. The Admiral ordered a closer investigation. Squadrons of fast attack ships raced toward Earth while larger vessels spread throughout the system to scan every planet, moon, and asteroid for hidden facilities. What they found made no sense according to everything the Empire thought they knew about human military capabilities. Earth appeared completely normal from orbit. Cities sprawled across the continents exactly as Imperial satellites had been recording for decades. Civilian spacecraft moved between Earth and Mars on regular schedules. The Moon showed the same research stations and mining facilities that had been operating for years. Everything looked precisely as it should for a peaceful, technologically primitive civilization. The problem was what wasn't there. Every military installation that Rex had identified was gone. The hidden facilities in the asteroid belt had vanished without leaving even debris fields to mark their former locations. The massive energy sources near Neptune were no longer generating any detectable signatures. Even the underground complexes on Mars had apparently been abandoned, leaving only empty tunnels that stretched deep into the planet's crust. Admiral Corvin faced a mystery that challenged everything he understood about military logistics and engineering. Moving installations the size of cities was theoretically possible with enough time and resources, but doing it quickly enough to stay ahead of an Imperial investigation should have been impossible. Yet somehow, humanity had made their entire hidden military infrastructure disappear in the few weeks since Captain Rex's mission. On Earth's surface, Director Chun walked through the pristine corridors of the Global Defense Command Center, reviewing reports from around the world. The Exodus Protocol had been activated successfully, with every critical military asset and volunteer personnel relocated to their predetermined coordinates outside known space. Only essential systems remained to maintain the illusion of normal civilian operations. Shane paused at a window overlooking the city below. Millions of people continued their daily lives, unaware that their planet's entire defensive capability had been secretly moved to safety. The civilian population had been told that increased military exercises were taking place in remote areas, explaining any unusual activity they might observe. Only a few thousand individuals knew the truth about Earth's capabilities and the massive operation that had just been completed. The Global Defense Command itself was one of the few military facilities still operating on Earth, hidden beneath layers of stealth technology that made it invisible to Imperial sensors. From this control center, Chin and her team coordinated with the hidden fleet and monitored the Empire's investigation of their empty solar system. Admiral Corvin's frustration was evident in his communications with High Command. The Imperial fleet had spent 3 days conducting the most thorough scan of a star system in their military history, yet they had found no trace of advanced human technology or hidden supercarriers. Either their intelligence was completely wrong, or humanity possessed stealth capabilities that exceeded anything the Empire had previously encountered. The Admiral ordered his science teams to begin detailed analysis of the abandoned facilities. On Mars, the underground complexes were vast, stretching for hundreds of kilometers through the planet's interior. The construction showed engineering techniques that Imperial experts couldn't fully understand, with materials and methods that suggested technology far beyond what Earth was supposed to possess. More disturbing were the signs of recent evacuation. The facilities hadn't been abandoned years ago, but within the last few weeks. Equipment had been carefully removed rather than destroyed, suggesting that the humans planned to continue their operations elsewhere. Power systems had been systematically shut down in a way that required detailed knowledge of advanced engineering principles. Intelligence Officer Quinn studied the evacuation patterns from her station aboard the flagship. She had spent years analyzing enemy logistics and supply lines, but the human operation defied conventional understanding. Moving the amount of equipment and personnel suggested by the empty facilities would have required hundreds of transport ships and months of careful planning. Yet Imperial surveillance had detected no unusual shipping activity in or out of human space. Quinn began to suspect that Earth's transportation capabilities might be as advanced as their stealth technology. If humanity could move massive amounts of cargo without being detected by Imperial sensors, it would explain how they had managed to build and hide a supercarrier program for decades without anyone noticing. Her analysis was interrupted by an urgent communication from the fleet's sensor division. A transmission had been detected originating from somewhere within the Sol system, but its exact location couldn't be determined. The signal appeared to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once, suggesting technology that could mask communication. Sources across interstellar distances. The transmission was brief and direct. Captain Blake of the UES Leviathan addressed Admiral Corvin personally, thanking him for his interest in human defensive capabilities. The Empire's investigation had been noted and appreciated, but their presence in the Sol system was no longer required. Imperial forces had 72 hours to withdraw to neutral space or face the consequences of their continued trespass. The transmission ended as abruptly as it began, leaving no trace that Imperial sensors could follow. Admiral Corvin stared at the communication logs, trying to understand how a message could be sent without revealing the sender's location. The technology implied by such a capability was beyond anything in the Empire's arsenal, suggesting that humanity's secrets went far deeper than just hidden shipyards and stealth systems. Corvin faced an impossible decision. Withdrawing would be an admission that the mighty hegemony empire couldn't track down a single species' military assets. It would encourage other civilizations to believe they could hide from Imperial surveillance and potentially build their own secret weapons programs. The political consequences of such a retreat could destabilize the Empire's control over dozens of worlds, but escalating the situation meant engaging an enemy whose capabilities remained completely unknown. The human supercarrier had demonstrated technology that surpassed Imperial designs, and the disappearance of their entire military infrastructure suggested abilities that the Empire scientists couldn't explain. Starting a war with such an opponent without understanding their true strength would be the height of military stupidity. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Admiral Corvin received new orders from Supreme Commander Zaltok. The Empire would not be intimidated by primitive humans, regardless of their technological surprises. The Seventh Fleet would remain in the Sol system and continue their investigation until every human military secret was revealed. The Admiral relayed the Empire's decision to Director Chun through established diplomatic channels. Earth's government was informed that Imperial forces would continue their legitimate investigation of potential treaty violations. Any attempt to interfere with Imperial operations would be considered an act of war against the hegemony Empire Chun. Read the message with the grim satisfaction of someone whose predictions had proven accurate. The Empire's arrogance would not allow them to accept that a supposedly primitive species had outwitted their intelligence services and hidden the military program under their noses. That arrogance would now lead them into a confrontation with forces they couldn't begin to understand. The 72-hour deadline expired at exactly midnight Earth time. Admiral Corvin waited on his bridge, wondering what form the human response would take. He didn't have to wait long to find out what happened when the hegemony empire ignored a warning from Earth's secret fleet. The response from the hegemony empire came faster than anyone expected. Within hours of the deadline's expiration, Supreme Commander Zaltok authorized Operation Absolute Search, the largest military mobilization in Imperial history. 12 full fleets spread across 1,000 light-years of space, each equipped with the most advanced tracking technology the Empire possessed. The scale of the operation shocked even Imperial High Command. Over 800 warships deployed, simultaneously carrying experimental quantum sensors, AI-driven analysis systems, and deep space reconnaissance platforms that had never been tested in actual operations. The Empire was committing resources that could have conquered entire star systems to the single task of finding Earth's hidden supercarrier fleet. Commander Reeves of the UES Phantom watched the massive Imperial deployment from the safety of perfect stealth. Her ship represented the cutting edge of human reconnaissance technology, invisible to every sensor system the Empire had ever developed. The Phantom could observe enemy operations from distances measured in kilometers without any risk of detection, providing Earth's leadership with detailed intelligence on Imperial capabilities and intentions. The Imperial search pattern revealed the Empire's desperation and growing paranoia. Their fleets were scanning systems that no human ship had ever visited, investigating regions of space so remote that most civilizations had never bothered to explore them. The Empire's leadership clearly believed that Earth's military infrastructure was hidden somewhere in the vast, empty spaces between star systems. Reeves transmitted her observations back to General Santos, now commanding Earth's scattered fleet, from coordinates that would remain classified until the current crisis ended. The general studied the Imperial search pattern from his command ship, trying to understand the strategic thinking behind such a massive deployment of resources. The Empire's dedication to finding the human fleet had surprised even Earth's military leadership. Intelligence projections had suggested that the Empire would conduct a limited search before moving on to other priorities. Instead, they were treating Earth as an existential threat to their continued dominance of the galaxy, committing forces that left their own territory vulnerable to attack from other major powers. Santos realized that the Empire's reaction validated every decision Earth's government had made over the past century. The secret development program, the hidden industrial facilities, and the careful deception that had kept their true capabilities concealed had all been necessary preparations for exactly this situation. The Empire would never have allowed humanity to develop advanced technology if they had known about it earlier. As the Imperial search continued, their investigations began revealing disturbing evidence of Earth's long-term planning. Archaeological teams discovered monitoring stations and systems that predated official human expansion by decades. These installations suggested that Earth had been secretly observing galactic politics and gathering intelligence long before they had announced their presence to the galactic community. Dr. Rodriguez, Earth's chief xenobiologist and intelligence analyst, studied the captured Imperial communications from her position aboard the hidden command ship. The Empire's search pattern indicated they had identified several potential hiding spots for the human fleet, including the dangerous Void Nebula, the politically sensitive Shattered Worlds region, and the mysterious Dark Sector where few exploration ships had ever returned. The Imperial investigation was becoming more sophisticated as it continued. Their quantum sensors were detecting energy signatures that conventional technology couldn't perceive, and their AI analysis systems were finding patterns in seemingly random data that pointed toward possible human activities. While Earth's stealth technology remained superior, the Empire's massive search effort was beginning to narrow down the possible locations where a supercarrier fleet could hide. Rodriguez analyzed the Imperial communication traffic and identified a critical vulnerability in their operation. The 12 Imperial fleets were coordinating their search through a central command network that relied on predictable communication schedules and standardized reporting procedures. If Earth could disrupt that coordination, the entire search operation might collapse into chaos. Captain Blake of the UES Leviathan received the intelligence analysis and made a decision that would escalate the conflict beyond anything either side had previously contemplated. The human supercarrier would not simply evade the Imperial search. Instead, it would strike directly at the heart of the Empire's power, demonstrating capabilities that would force them to reconsider their entire approach to the human threat. The Leviathan emerged from hyperspace directly above the Hegemony Empire's capital world, its massive hull casting shadows across the planet's surface as it appeared in the center of the heavily defended home system. Every military installation in the system activated simultaneously, but before they could respond to the unprecedented intrusion, Blake began broadcasting on all communication frequencies. The message reached every inhabited world in Hegemony. Space within minutes. Blake's transmission was simple and direct, delivered in the same calm tone that had characterized human diplomacy for decades. Earth extended a formal invitation to any species seeking freedom from imperial rule. Detailed coordinates would be provided to governments and organizations that could demonstrate genuine intent to leave imperial territory peacefully. As Blake spoke, the Leviathan's launch bays opened and thousands of small craft deployed toward every inhabited world in the system. The Imperial Defense Network tracked the incoming objects, expecting some form of attack, but the craft made no aggressive moves. Instead, they took up positions throughout the system and began broadcasting their own signals toward the planets. Below, Supreme Commander Zaltok watched from his command center as the situation spiraled beyond his control. The small craft weren't weapons but sophisticated communication devices, designed to establish direct contact with potential dissidents and resistance movements throughout Imperial space. Earth wasn't just hiding from the Empire anymore. They were actively working to undermine Imperial authority and recruit allies from among the Empire's own subjects. The transmission ended with the Leviathan's disappearance, but the damage to Imperial prestige was already done. Within hours, governments on dozens of worlds were secretly establishing communication with the human fleet. Species that had been oppressed under Imperial rule for generations suddenly had hope that escape was possible. The Empire's worst nightmare was coming true as their subjects began to believe they had alternatives to continued submission. Intelligence Director Kreven reported the scope of the crisis to Imperial High Command. The communication devices deployed by the Leviathan had established contact with resistance movements, oppressed minorities, and dissident political groups across the Empire. Several planetary governments were already requesting private meetings with human representatives to discuss the possibility of leaving Imperial space. The Empire's response was swift and predictable. Martial law was declared across Imperial space, with military governors replacing civilian leaders on any world that showed signs of communication with the human fleet. The secret police began mass arrests of suspected dissidents, while Imperial propaganda broadcasts denounced Earth's offer as a trap designed to weaken the Empire from within, but the damage had been done. The Empire's subjects now knew that escape was possible, that somewhere beyond Imperial space was a civilization powerful enough to challenge the Empire's authority and offer safe passage to freedom. The knowledge spread through underground networks and secret communications, building momentum that Imperial suppression couldn't stop. General Santos received reports of the Empire's brutal crackdown on dissent with grim satisfaction. The Imperial response proved everything Earth's intelligence services had predicted about their enemy's character. The Empire would rather destroy their own subjects than allow them the freedom to choose their own destiny. Commander Reeves transmitted the final piece of intelligence that would shape Earth's next move. The Imperial search fleets were being recalled to protect the Empire's core worlds from potential rebellion. The massive operation to find Earth's hidden fleet was being abandoned as the Empire faced the more immediate threat of civil unrest across their territory. The hunt for Earth's supercarriers had ended not because the Empire had found them, but because the Empire could no longer afford to look. The human fleet remained hidden while the Empire's authority crumbled under the weight of their own oppressive response to the offer of freedom. Supreme Commander Zaltok faced a choice between pursuing a war he couldn't win against an enemy he couldn't find, or accepting the loss of Imperial subjects to a better future among the stars. The Empire's greatest military leader realized that Earth had already won a victory more complete than any conquest, by offering hope to those who had lost it under Imperial rule. The galaxy held its collective breath as every communication system across known space received the same transmission simultaneously. From the core worlds of the Hegemony Empire to the remote trading posts on the galactic rim, the signal reached every inhabited system at exactly the same moment, displaying a technical capability that defied everything the major powers thought they understood about faster-than-light communication. Captain Blake appeared on screens across thousands of worlds, standing on the bridge of the UES Leviathan. with the calm confidence that had marked every human diplomatic contact for the past century. Behind him, the massive Supercarrier's command center bustled with activity as crew members from dozens of different species worked alongside humans. At stations designed with alien physiology in mind, the revelation began with a simple statement that would reshape galactic politics forever. Earth's Supercarrier program had never been about military supremacy or challenging the Empire's dominance through force of arms. The Leviathan and her sister ships were colony vessels, designed and built for the largest voluntary migration in galactic history. As Blake spoke, the true scope of humanity's achievement became clear. The UES Leviathan wasn't alone in the void between galaxies. One by one, dozens of identical supercarriers decloaked throughout known space, each one positioned near systems where oppressed species had struggled under Imperial rule. The ships that the Empire had feared as weapons of conquest were revealed as arks of salvation, capable of transporting entire populations to new worlds beyond any Empire's reach. General Martinez appeared on the transmission from the fleet's true location, speaking from a command center that existed in a galaxy the Empire had never known existed. Earth's century-long project was finally revealed in its full scope and ambition. Humanity had discovered the existence of multiple galaxies early in their space exploration, but had kept this knowledge secret, while quietly establishing the infrastructure needed for the greatest exodus in history. The new galaxy spread behind Martinez in the command center's viewing windows, its spiral arms unmarked by the boundaries and conflicts that had shaped politics in known space for millennia. Pristine worlds waited for colonization, vast resources lay untapped, and entire star systems remained available for any species willing to leave behind the violence and oppression of their old homes. Ambassador Kane spoke next from humanity's new capital world, extending formal invitations to any species willing to make the journey to freedom. The supercarriers weren't hiding from the Empire, but preparing for departure. Earth's diplomatic corps had been quietly establishing contact with resistance movements and oppressed populations for decades, building networks that could coordinate the massive logistical challenge of relocating entire civilizations. The Empire's response was immediate and exactly what Earth's planners had predicted. Supreme Commander Zaltok ordered the immediate destruction of Earth itself, deploying the Imperial Navy's most powerful weapons against the planet that had dared to challenge their authority. But when the attack fleets arrived, they found a world maintained by automated systems and volunteers who had chosen to stay behind as caretakers. The population of Earth had been evacuated months earlier, transported to the new galaxy aboard cargo ships that Imperial censors had dismissed as routine trade traffic. The cities that Imperial surveillance had been monitoring were hollow shells, maintained by sophisticated holographic systems and robotic workers that created the illusion of normal civilian activity. Agent Foster, the human operative who had captured Captain Rex during his intelligence mission, revealed the final layer of Earth's deception from her position aboard the command ship. The entire disappearance of Earth's military infrastructure had been orchestrated to demonstrate humanity's true capabilities without revealing their ultimate purpose. The supercarriers could have remained hidden indefinitely, continuing their secret mission while the Empire believed they were hunting for hidden weapons. But Earth's leadership had chosen revelation over continued secrecy. The message was clear: humanity possessed the technology and organization to evacuate entire civilizations from Imperial space, and no military force could stop them. The transmission included detailed specifications for the journey to the new galaxy, complete with star charts, supply requirements, and settlement plans that had been refined through decades of careful preparation. Species that chose to accept Earth's invitation would be provided with everything needed to establish new colonies in a galaxy free from the conflicts and oppression that had shaped their histories. Dr. Rodriguez presented the scientific achievements that made the exodus possible. Earth's physicists had solved the fundamental problems of faster-than-light travel between galaxies, developing jump gate technology that could transport entire fleets across impossible distances. Their industrial capacity had been secretly expanded through hidden facilities that operated beyond the reach of any empire's surveillance networks, the reaction across the galaxy was swift and overwhelming. On worlds throughout imperial space, governments that had endured centuries of oppression began making secret preparations for departure. Resistance movements that had fought hopeless battles against imperial occupation suddenly had a goal beyond mere survival. Even some imperial subjects who had benefited from the current system began reconsidering their loyalty when offered the chance to start fresh in an unexplored galaxy. The Empire's military machine, designed to conquer and control, proved helpless against an enemy that offered escape rather than conquest. Imperial fleets could destroy worlds and defeat armies, but they couldn't stop entire populations from simply leaving. The supercarriers began their work immediately, appearing at predetermined coordinates to collect the first wave of refugees who had chosen freedom over familiar oppression. Captain Blake concluded the galaxy-wide transmission with an invitation that reached beyond political boundaries and species differences. Earth's new civilization would welcome anyone willing to commit to the principles of cooperation and peaceful development that would govern life in the unexplored galaxy. The age of empires and galactic domination was ending, replaced by an age of exploration and voluntary association among free peoples. The first convoy of alien refugees began their journey within days of the transmission, escorted by the UES Leviathan as it led a fleet of transport ships toward coordinates that existed beyond the edge of known space. The convoy included representatives from dozens of species, carrying the hopes and dreams of populations that had never imagined escape was possible. Supreme Commander Zaltok watched the convoy depart from his command center, knowing that his forces were powerless to stop it. The Empire could pursue the refugees, but doing so would mean following them into an unknown galaxy where Earth's defensive capabilities would be fighting on home ground. The Supreme Commander faced the choice between accepting the loss of Imperial subjects or leading his forces into a war they had no chance of winning. As the Leviathan and her escorts disappeared into the void between galaxies, the balance of power that had defined galactic civilization for thousands of years shifted forever. The Hegemony Empire remained the dominant military force in known space, but their subjects now knew that alternatives existed. The galaxy's greatest weapon was no longer military might, but the simple promise of freedom among the stars. The Supercarrier fleet had completed its mission not through conquest or destruction, but by offering hope to those who had lost it. Earth's greatest achievement wasn't the technology that made faster than light travel possible, but the vision of a civilization where cooperation replaced domination and exploration replaced conquest. In the new galaxy, humanity's colonies began receiving their first alien settlers, refugees from dozens of worlds who had chosen to leave everything behind for the chance to build something better. The age of empires was ending, replaced by an age of voluntary cooperation among species who had learned that freedom was worth any price. The UES Leviathan had shocked the galaxy with its appearance, then disappeared into legend as the ship that proved escape was possible for anyone brave enough to reach for it.